While a lot of Americans watch every night to watch Bret Baier give the most important news of the day from behind the screen of the Fox News host, few people understand the personal destruction this senior reporter has been writing for almost 20 years. A new boy was born with a heart the size of a pea beating blood the wrong way. 5 surgeries on the open heart before he became a teenager. A car accident in Montana that took the whole family stuck in a frozen ditch upside down. The unexpected death of the father who raised everything Bret turned into. And maybe stolen text was the worst of all words that would break his heart. Carefully built a name for itself as one of the most fair-minded reporters on TV. This is the story of a man who job telling America the hard truths only to face the facts about his own life that no news school could have made them ready for him. 2007 should have been the year Bret Baier has only one good things. Foxy had just been named the network's White House reporter, a well-known job position that covers the Bush managing things. His path through his work stood straight up. But since Bret was getting to the top of his field, he'd worked for years to get. His private life in a hospital, the world was about to fall apart. The birth room. Amy Baier had a baby. That year, they had their first son, a boy they Paul. It went well with the arrival. Smoothly. No problems and no warnings, no signs. Just another healthy child that looked like they were coming into the world. But soon after the birth, one of the nurses noticed something that wasn't right. The child looked pale. His color wasn't quite right. Yes. What happened next was every parent's a real-life nightmare happening right now. Medical tests showed a terrible diagnosis. Paul was born with 5 birth problems in the heart. His the heart was about the size of a pea, putting blood through his body in the wrong way body. There were enough major flaws that doctors brought bad news no parent would like to hear. Their brand new son would need surgery on their open heart soon. There was a very good chance Paul might not make it to get home with his parents. Amy and Bret were Catholic, brought up with a strong faith, but nothing gets you ready to watch your baby grow. Moved into an operating room with his son. The couple relied on prayer a lot during those very scary first days. Bret would later talk about what he was thinking during this time, saying that he thought Paul loved God and had a bigger plan for him. And for their family. But back then at times, hope and fear were next to each other. Side. Paul had his first open heart surgery. Heart surgery when they were babies. The surgery went well, but it was just the start of a medical journey that would describe the family of Baiers for many years to come. In the years that followed, Paul would have to deal with more open surgery on the heart. In between, the big 10 angioplasties were done. Medical treatments meant to keep his not working properly cardiovascular system doing its job. Every surgery was risks that could kill you. For each recovery, each time period had its own problems. The Baiers came up with ways to deal with survive being hospitalized all the time. They came up with a family mantra that they would repeat when things are the darkest. Worry one more day until Paul gets home. It served as a guide for them and a way to measure progress. When the road ahead looked like too long, even when home seemed far away, they could see the light at the end of the tube, no matter how far away it could be. In 2014, 7 years into their journey with Paul, Bret made the choice, because of his heart problem, to tell everyone their story. He wrote a story called Special Heart under the title A Journey of Faith, Love, Hope, and Courage. The writing wrote down every scary moment of Paul's medical journey, so people can an honest look at what families having congenital heart disease have to keep going. Bret was honest about the stress in his writing. Paul had a problem on his marriage and to Amy, the worries that kept him up at night, and their faith kept them going. During the worst times. The writing served 2 purposes. It helped some families dealing with the same illness. It made me feel less alone. But it also all money goes to congenital heart disease. Looking into diseases they had found that almost 1% of all births in the United States are caused by birth defects, heart abnormalities, but people were still aware low. Bret changed things with his position. At this point, Bret got the important emotional help from a not likely source. Bret Hume was Bret had been a famous Fox News host, had been removed on the special report, went through his own family tragedy when his grown son killed himself. Hume knew the most about loss and fear their co-workers couldn't. He gave advice Bret in the early days of Paul's shelf disaster, giving us a look. It proved very helpful. Things will get better. He heard Hume say, "You need to believe in God and forget the doctors and put it in God's hands." The people who bought Paul worked hard to keep things normal. When they had their second son, Daniel, who came in 2010, they became careful to make sure both boys felt the same amount of love and support. There was Daniel, could always feel missed because of all the attention, worried about the health of his older brother. But the brothers became very close, and Paul, in spite of everything, set on living a normal life as possible. But things were hard for the family, not even close. In fact, one of the scariest parts were still to come. The 2019 trip for the Baier family to Montana was meant to be exactly what they needed, a chance to go skiing, inhale the mountain air, and for a moment not worry about cardiac tracking and hospital stays. Paul's health had been not too unstable. The family could, so they thought, finally take it easy. The ski trip itself was great. The boys liked the hills. Bret and Amy got some time to relax that they really needed as the holiday came to an end. The family piled into their car for the go to the airport by car. They were going. You already have good memories at home, making plans for their next family trip. And one could have known what would happen. Take place next on that road in Montana. The car hit an icy spot. Bret lost in charge. Before anyone could fully figure out what was going on, they crashed into a truck. The blow sent their SUV going off the road quickly. The car flipped and landed completely flat, turned over in a ditch next to the road. To get AAT that time, there was only quiet and the sound of metal rattling. After that came the seeing that they were all still alive. A driver who was passing saw the crash and stopped right away to help. Someone who was kind helped Bret and Amy to take all 4 family members away through the wrecked car. Need help? The first rescuers got there and rushed everyone to the closest hospital to be checked out. For a family that already knows each other very well, with doctors and hospital rooms tests, and the unfairness of the situation not lost. This is why they came to Montana, to get away from medical problems, only to end up back in the hospital. The evaluation showed amazing luck. Bret hit his head and hurt himself. One family, the member needed 14 stitches in their chin. Another had a tooth that was broken. Would need dental work done. A sprain. The last injury on the list was to the ankle. By some miracle, no one sustained stress that could kill them. They were, as in later words, Bret would say it, bang up and living. Bret put out a public saying nice things about the first rescuers and the kind person who stopped to help. Please help. But it was his own thought process shared on social media that showed the accident had a big effect on him. He sent out a tweet that seemed to describe everything about the Baier family had learned over years of healthcare crises and close calls. Do not take nothing for granted. Every day is a gift, and family is everything. It's good to remind yourself of that before something happens. It did it for you. The accident served as yet another reminder of how fragile life is, something that the Baiers already knew. They were better than most, but they didn't have much time to deal with the pain. In late 2020, Bret's phone would ring with news that would change things. It hurt like hell. Bret's dad had been being told they have cancer. Moved forward quickly. Within months of the diagnosis, Bret got word that the end was getting close. He went to be with the father, and the whole family got together. Because of his death. Bret later said thankful that his dad didn't have to go through pain long, and everyone who loved him got to say goodbye. Bret felt the loss. It was harder than he thought it would be. Talked about his friendship with his father gave to MarketWatch just 3 years ago, explaining how much his father had shaped him from the teenagers who work in farming. Bret had run a business to the way he went to work as a news reporter. His father's impact was felt through everything. The lessons about working hard, honesty, and commitment came straight from seeing his dad live those values every day. The online group received a flood of love when Bret told everyone that his father had died. High viewers, co-workers, and fellow reporters flooded his social media pages with words of love and support. But no amount of help could make up for the when we lost the man who had been an important part of who Bret became. Mourned his father and kept going, taking care of Paul's ongoing health needs. Was not aware that his work life was going to blow up in a story that would put everything he had built at risk. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, the election caused chaos all over American politics and the news. Donald Trump wouldn't give up the loss to Joe Biden, saying that he won a lot of votes scam. A lot of Republicans agreed with these claims. With some GOP politicians, they said the election was stolen. By hacking into vote machines and rigging of the vote counts. The claims aimed at one company in particular. The company Dominion Voting Systems made electronic voting machines are used all over the country. In the weeks after the election, The business came into the picture of more and more crazy scam claims. Right-wing media figures said the machines in Dominion were set up to move their votes from Trump to Biden. The charges were baseless, but they got around quickly through right-wing news sources circles, and Fox News, where Bret works, turned into one of the loudest speakers off these claims. Several Fox News characters regularly pushed without evidence things said about Dominion's gear every night. Hosts and reporters it looked like the company had a part to play. They stole the election from Trump. And most of the network's viewers supporters of Trump reacted enthusiastically to these stories. But Dominion wasn't one of them. I am going to let the charges stand, not questioned. The company filed a huge slander suit case against Fox News and want $1.60 billion in losses. And Dominion blamed the network of destroying it on purpose bad name by making false claims that its the leaders knew they weren't true. A case led to a lot of discovery things going on, and Bret found himself questioned and looked into as part of the story. Text messages between Fox News people's traits were called in. Communications were carefully looked over, and what came out painted a worrying picture. A picture of how the network worked during the race. For Bret, what a sad story. The Dominion situation went more than just the case. As Fox News pushed even further to the right after Bret found himself after Trump's loss, getting more and more alone in his own place of work. He'd built his career on reporting based on facts and figures. He'd respect from everyone in the politics range for how fair he is. But now has saw his network give up on those rules that support keeping its. Bret made a choice that made the crowd happy, that showed what his goals were. He pitched a special show that would carefully look into and disprove the claims of election theft are growing through right news outlets. That would show that Fox News is taking votes worries very much while still putting facts ahead of feelings. There would be a moment of journalistic honesty and proof that the network could balance of what it's giving its viewers serving the truth. Bret turned in. He made a suggestion and waited for a reaction that's still not ready. The special never came out. Didn't even get an answer to his pitch. As the Dominion case went on, Fox News fought to keep interactions between employees eventually. Though, some of those the press got a hold of private texts. Text messages were discovered by the Daily Beast. There was one of Bret and Tucker Carlson, the biggest stars on the network. What those texts made public would change how many people looked at Bret Baier for a long time. Bret and Tucker could see the notes, talking about how Fox News makes decisions about calling and poll results. The network was getting a lot of negative feedback from Trump fans who are mad that Biden was taking over states. The text showed that Bret agreed with the network as many people didn't like Biden's answer to success and needed to feel reassured. What was even worse was that Bret wrote that he was personally pushing the network to make a decision to take more time with their decision in one message. He said he'd called that asked them to slow down and he thought they would walk more slowly, and call Nevada was for Biden. The text showed that it was a sign. Fox News did become was the last big network to officially during the election for Joe Biden, out a long time after other news sources had called. Before the text leaked, Bret had mostly stayed away from rumors about his reasons for doing what he did during the 2020 election. His picture as an impartial reporter had defended him from the worst of the criticism that was aimed at Fox News. But the words had a terrible blow to that carefully built a picture. This was documentary evidence that showed Bret had let government factors to play a role judge the news. The man who built his job based on objectivity seemed to have he lowered his own standards to please others. People who are angry. For reporters, few the claims go further than a hint that you've let politics get in the way more important than facts. The leaked texts, that's exactly what Fox said in the end. News ended the case against Dominion for $787.50 million, which is one of the biggest accusation settlements in the history of American media. The network put out a comment, taking into account that some claims about Dominion was not true. But the damage was done. Because Bret and Fox News don't trust them, it was impossible to fix one's own image with a check for the payment. What Bret was ready to do compromise for the sake of partisanship. Politics would follow him, but even Osh's work life fell apart. And my personal life kept making me do everything no matter how much strength he still had. The trouble at work that was caused by the Dominion affair and the texts that were leaked, what they bought never left their minds. Really counted. Paul's fight with his heart problem got worse. And the family's goal is to help others who are they moved forward by facing similar problems. Even as there was a lot of debate, Bret's job The Baiers had turned into important people in the pediatric. They set up a cardiology group, AS, the most important voices in the Foundation for Children's National Hospital based in Washington, D.C., where Paul had spent most of his time being treated, used his high standing to raise money for raising knowledge and money, which helps Tom more than $1 million for the hospital by several charity events and fundraisers. Amy became a part of the foundation's son, the board, and contributing to the development of the organization's main goals. They had their best year together in 2023, still a big financial commitment. Their gift to Children's was $1 million. National Hospital in particular toes it up, the Baier Family Congenital Program for research into heart disease. The program's main goal is to improve care choices for the disease that almost 1% of all births in the U.S. for the Baiers. It meant a way to turn the pain of their family into goal, making sure that future families might look forward to better results than they had. At the same time, Paul kept defying hopes and dreams. Even though he is still having health problems, he wouldn't let his illness define him. What his limits are. He joined the senior golf team at his high school that the course for hours as a team, getting better at his swing. He also pushed himself in college tennis, his body in ways that might have seemed impossible because of his health background. The Baiers did a lot to make sure that both Paul and his younger brother Daniel felt equally loved and cared for. Aware of not taking care of Paul's health needs loom over Daniel's own journey through teen years. Then May 2024 came along, and a find that made everyone remember how dangerous Paul's situation has stayed. A regular chest x-ray, the kind that Paul had been through dozens of times first, showed something that gives the whole medical team chills. Doctors found a life-threatening aneurysm close to Paul's heart. 16-year-old had shown absolutely no signs. Was the aneurysm gone? If it wasn't found, it could have burst at any time, almost certainly killing. It was divine to him, Bret said, to help. And it's hard to argue with that based on his opinion. How likely it is to catch a healthy tumor during a regular checkup. It was almost magical. Paul had his 5th open heart surgery. The cyst had surgery to fix it. Job, just as hard and dangerous as any had gone through, proved to be successful. Paul was 5 days after the surgery sent home to continue his recovery. They were on their way home when the Baiers stayed committed to being open about the things they did. They knew that telling their story would help others, helped other families going through similar. Bret used his condition to feel less alone. Because of his job at Fox News, to interview doctors, talk about defective heart defects disease, and teach people about warning signs, and how important it is to act quickly, showing. He talked about other families that having to deal with a CHD diagnosis, giving them a place where they can share their own stories of getting through and struggling. The lesson the sellers always shared with each other when families were going through similar problems, a look at hope and perspective, and no matter how hard things look in the moment. They made it clear that there's always a reason to think things will get better. Put your trust in the medical staff. If you have hope, hold on tight. To your family. Just enjoy each day. Time, because you can't be sure of tomorrow, but it's not set in stone either. Today, Bret Baier keeps anchoring every night a special story, delivering news to millions of people who watch Fox News. However, he's changed a lot from Thea Young, eager reporter who joined back in 1998. The years of health problems, personal losing jobs, and having work problems have changed how he thinks about what matters. Paul, now coming up adulthood, needs continued heart care because of it for the rest of his life, but can't say for sure what will happen in the future holds. There will probably be more procedures, and maybe even more surgeries. The 2024 aneurysm scare showed that there is still danger in ways that can't be seen. Always be ready for. But Paul lived to be 16 years old, did very well despite his illness, and built a life full of sports, friends, and normal things that teens do. That's more than they agreed to pay. Dared to hope for during those scary times. Bret's first days in the hospital talks a lot about how important being thankful, about being grateful for everything you own at all times every day. The failures at work, painful and embarrassing as they are, pale in compare to almost losing his son many times over the years. The texts hurt his image, but there was still life in the sun. A scandal hurt Fox News, but his family lived through a car accident that should have killed all of them. Bret, everything about how you deal with both happiness and sadness. The car accident that turned their lives around, a car that was upside down in Montana, was used as another harsh reminder of how fast anything can happen. As I drove to the airport, I thought about your everyday life. The next thing you know, Yuri being hung upside down in a ditch and check to see if everyone is okay. When there is ice on the road, you can't drive to decide if a baby is born with heart problems. You can't decide when words get out or when your dad gets been told they have cancer. But you can feel free to choose how you react. Choose thankfulness over anger. Pick a goal over hopelessness. For a man who spent decades writing about other people's bad luck and good fortune, looking at who won and lost in politics, telling about the rise and fall of public numbers, Bret Baier has found that his best story isn't one he tells from the anchor desk. It's the one he lives every day when the cameras are off, sent home to a family that i.e. been through more than most people can. Think about it. It's in the sound of still beating strong. Paul's heart after 5 heart surgeries can be seen in the bond between two brothers who have learned that physical problems don't describe a youth. It's already here. Every time they take a grateful breath, the family when they know how close they've come to lost everything more than once. Professional problems will go away. The scandal over Dominion will turn into a note in the history of TV news that leaked texts won't be remembered as new disputes arise. But Paul's heart stays the same, will keep beating. And their family bot will keep getting up every day and choosing meaning over fear and gratitude, not being able to move and choosing to believe that even the toughest paths can lead if you don't want to go somewhere important. Give up hope.